Hey guys, Cloudy Hayes back for another video. The War Within Early Access is live August 22nd. Everyone is set off on their journeys to hit level 80. For some, a nice slow-paced leveling experience to enjoy the content and do every quest. And then for others, racing to 80 to max out as many characters as quickly as possible. Regardless of your playstyle, we will all need to gear up our characters in order to do max level content. In this video, I'm going to go over all the possible ways to get gear in the early stages of the War Within, and get ready for Season 1. We're also going to talk about the first couple weeks after Season 1 goes live, and what we can and cannot do, and how we can get geared up during the launch of Season 1. We're going to cover it all so you guys can get geared up as efficiently as possible. First, we are going to cover early access, what we can and cannot do, and how we can get geared during the short window. During early access, which is from August 22nd to August 26th, we are very limited to what we can and cannot do and how much gear we can get. Right away, we can start running dungeons. You can run normal dungeons at level 70 as soon as you land on the beach in the Isle of Dorn. Focusing on normal dungeons will be one of the best ways to get geared during the early access. At max level, normal dungeons will drop 554 item level explorer gear. They also do not have any kind of lockout, so you can spam them over and over until you get the gear you're looking for. And you also don't have to run them in a group either. If playing solo is your thing, you can queue up for follower dungeons at max level or while leveling up. When it comes to normal dungeons, we will have access to all 8 of the new dungeons in the War Within. Take a look at the adventure guide and look for some items you may want to aim for. You will also be able to upgrade all the gear you get out of normal dungeons using Valor Stones all the way up to 580 item level, which is pretty nice. The next way to get gear during the early access is through delves. Delves will be one of the best sources for getting gear during this time. During the early access period, we will only have access to the first 3 difficulty tiers of delves. Running delves at tier 3 will give you 554 item level explorer gear at the end, along with various other currencies such as undercoins, which are used to purchase rewards from the delve vendors in Dornegal. You can actually get higher item level gear from running bountiful delves. Bountiful delves appear randomly once per day, 1 per zone for a total of 4 per day. Bountiful delves offer a bountiful coffer as a reward, which drops more powerful gear, a radiant echo, bonus currencies, and a chance at new or upgraded curio for your delve companion. Curios are just items you use to add skills or abilities to Bran. In order to unlock the bountiful chests at the end of the delve, you will need to have a restored coffer key. To get your hands on restored coffer keys, you will need to collect and combine 100 coffer key shards to create a restored coffer key. You get key shards mainly from world quests, radiant echo events, other outdoor events, and you can also get them from unlocking renown as well. Tier 3 Bountiful Delves will drop 571 item level gear on the Adventurer track, which can be upgraded all the way to 593 using Weather Crests, or upgraded to 580 just by using Valor Stones. All the gear from normal dungeons and regular tier 3 delves can be upgraded to 480 item level as well. You will get Valor Stones all around the zones from doing quests, world quests, random treasures in the open world, completing delves and dungeons, and other sources as well. So getting your hands on Valor Stones will be pretty easy to do. The next source of gear will be crafting gear, but let me just quickly say that any crafting gear you decide to buy during the early access or have crafted through work orders will be extremely expensive, and probably isn't worth it since we will be replacing the gear in the next couple days anyways. So this section here is strictly for min-maxers or people with tons of gold that don't mind spending it. Crafting gear during early access will be very limited, but as far as I know, we will be able to craft gear between 561 to 574 item level using soul sigils. Finding someone with the recipes could be challenging though unless you level up your professions yourself and unlock the recipes. But like I said, it's going to be super expensive and probably not even worth it during the early release. But that's up to you, of course. Leveling up your renowned factions will also be another source for getting some gear. Each of the 4 renowned factions offer gear by hitting a particular renown level. Getting renown 7 with Council of Dornegal will unlock 584 item level veteran track shoulder armor. Getting renown 8 with the Assembly of the Deeps will unlock 584 item level veteran track head armor. Getting renown 7 with the Hallowfall Arathi will unlock 584 item level veteran chest armor, and getting renown 6 with the Severed Threads will unlock a 571 item level trinket called Nerubian Pheromone Secretor. You can get higher versions of this trinket just by leveling up your Severed Threads renown faction, but you do gotta get pretty high up in the faction to get the other ones. Those are most of the general ways to get gear during early access. But now we're going to move on to gearing up after the official launch happens. August 26th is the official launch date worldwide for the War Within. Season 1 of the War Within doesn't start until September 10th. From August 6th all the way to September 9th, we still will be limited to what we can do in terms of getting gear. We now will have access to heroic dungeons, but unfortunately we won't be able to access mythic dungeons until after September 9th. Heroic dungeons will be one of the best sources for gearing up during this 2-week period. Killing bosses in heroic dungeons will have a chance to drop 567 item level gear on the explorer track, which really isn't that great, but it's all we have to work with during these 2 weeks before the season launches. You will want to run as many heroic dungeons as you can until you're fully geared up in all slots. Just to note, when Season 1 goes live, the gear from heroic dungeons will be increased to 580 item level instead of 567. Also, for those who might be coming back after a long break, heroic dungeons are already a bit harder than they were in the early seasons of Dragonflight. Since Blizzard did the difficulty changes in Season 4 of Dragonflight, they are now equivalent to what used to be Mythic 0 dungeons, and that's why gear is being increased when Season 1 launches. But don't worry folks, they are still easy to complete even with the difficulty changes. So you do want to make sure you get 8 heroic dungeons completed during the first 2 weeks for vault reasons. 8 during the first week and 8 during the second week. That way you max out all your vault rewards. Completing a heroic dungeon will reward you with a 593 item level piece of gear in your vault, so this is definitely something you will want to get done. On Tuesday, 1 week after the official launch day, we will open our first vault. As long as you completed a heroic dungeon, you will get a 593 item level piece of gear. This also goes for our second vault opening, which will be on Tuesday 2 weeks after the War Within launches on September 9th. The breakpoints for the dungeon category in the Great Vault goes as the following. You get 1 slot for completing 1 dungeon, 2 slots for completing 4 dungeons, and 3 slots for completing 8 dungeons. So it's very important to get 8 dungeons done both weeks, from August 6th to September 9th, before Season 1 launches. As it goes for delves during these 2 weeks, not much has changed from early access. We still only have access to Tier 3, which will still only drop 554 item level gear. But as I said before, Bountiful Delves will be dropping 571 gear on the Adventurer track, which will be huge for getting your item level up. So you need to make sure you're doing all your weekly quests and events around the map so you can get coffer keys. World quests will become available as soon as the expansion goes live on August 26th. Each zone has world quests, and they will rotate throughout the week. The rewards vary from each world quest. Sometimes they will reward trinkets, weapons, armor, or even currency, so keep your eyes open for certain world quests that can give you upgrades. World quests will reward 567 item level gear, which will be the same as heroic dungeons. This is an easy way to fill any low slots you may have. You will want to be doing all the world quests anyways to maximize your renown, but unfortunately, you can only complete a world quest 1 time and get renown for it. Meaning, if you complete a world quest on your main and get 500 renown for completing it, and then log onto your alt and do the same world quest, you won't get renown for completing it on your alt. You will still get the gear or currency from the quest, but no extra renown. That's because of the new warband system. Whenever you earn renown on a character, all your characters on your account will also earn that renown. Your renown levels will be the same on all of your characters. But it is definitely really important to get your renown up during these 2 weeks before Season 1 goes live. There are many reasons for this. One reason is that you can get your hands on some pretty good gear. We already went over the veteran gear you can get from Renown, but as you level further into your Renown factions, champion gear becomes available. You can unlock a piece of 597 item level champion track gear once you get your Renown to 16 or higher depending on the faction. Severed Threads just offers the same trinket but at a higher level. Another source for gearing during the first 2 weeks before Season 1 will be crafting. After the War Within goes live and the early access period is over, a lot more crafting options will become available. I'm not going to go into details on crafting gear, but this is definitely a way that you can get some gear. Just head over to the Forge Grounds in Dornegal and talk to a crafting clerk. From here you can view all the recipes for crafting gear. Like I said before, crafting gear is going to be very expensive even in the first 2 weeks, so unless you got tons of gold, you might want to find alternative options, or pick up professions and craft some items yourself. But either way, you might be able to find something that's not too expensive, so it's best to take a look anyways, because after Season 1 goes live, you are going to want to plan to craft some gear. Next up, we are going to talk about gearing up when Season 1 goes live. The week of September 10th, finally Mythic 0 dungeons are open. Delves can be run at any tier level, and the new raid is open as well. Item levels will now be able to go up a lot higher. During this time between September 10th to September 16th is known as Heroic Week. There are still limitations on what we can run during this week. The new raid Nurabar Palace will only have LFR Wing 1, normal, and heroic difficulties available during this week, so the race to World First won't be starting yet, not until the following week. All the big guilds will be running splits in heroic to gear their characters and learn the mechanics. Mythic Plus dungeons will not be available yet either. Only Mythic 0 will be open at this time. Mythic 0 dungeons drop 593 item level veteran track gear, and they have a daily lockout, so you can only run each dungeon one time per day per character. But there are 8 of them, so you should have no issue finding plenty of things to do to get gear. Mythic 0 dungeons also have a chance of dropping gear from each boss, and do not have timers or affixes. You can also change talents while inside of a Mythic 0 dungeon as well, so it makes for a chilled and relaxed environment for gearing up and testing out these new dungeons. You will want to run Mythic 0 dungeons on your mains as much as possible during this week to gear up, and maybe on any alts you want to gear up as well, but you will have to spend a lot of time in these Mythic 0s if you want to max out your gear. So focusing on one character at a time is the best bet. Gear up your mains first, obviously. But now that Season 1 is live, Heroic Dungeons now drop 480 item level gear, which was previously 467 before Season 1 went live. The new raid Nurabar Palace will be another great source for gearing up characters. LFR drops 584 item level gear, Normal drops 597 to 606 item level gear, and Heroic drops 610 to 619 item level gear. You definitely will want to run Wing 1 of LFR to have the chance of getting some tier gear. Wing 1 of the new raid should be very easy considering it's only the first few bosses of the raid, and usually the first few bosses are the easiest. And not to mention it's just LFR, it's usually pretty easy anyways. So make sure to run through there at least once in hopes of getting some tier gear, a trinket, or maybe a weapon. I know it's all RNG based, but it's definitely worth a shot. Running normal and heroic obviously will be a much better source of getting gear, but more of a challenge as well. For normal difficulty, most players will be able to join a pug and clear a decent amount of the way through the raid. But if you can manage to get into a pug and clear some of the bosses in heroic during the first week of the raid dropping, it will be a good idea. You are going to want to get your hands on heroic raid gear as soon as possible. Pugging raids can be challenging and frustrating as we all know. If you're having troubles getting invited to a pug, then just make your own. Do the best you can vetting players as you make the invites to the raid. All the mechanics will be new to everybody the first week, so just do your best to lead the raid. Most people won't give the raid leader a hard time in the first week. Just give it a shot and I bet you will clear some bosses. Even if you down the first 2 or 3 bosses, that's a win in my book. But ultimately, if you have a guild you run with, then joining a guild raid will be your best bet. Keep your fingers crossed for that BIS gear. Another thing that we can do this week for gear is world bosses. With the start of Season 1, the weekly world bosses will become available to kill. World bosses drop 603 item level gear, but as always, it is RNG based. You won't always get a drop from killing the world boss, but it's definitely worth it to kill to get a shot at a piece of 603 item level gear. And killing these world bosses doesn't take much time and is pretty easy. They usually die within a few minutes and are being killed pretty much all day long. Next up for getting geared is delves during Season 1. When Season 1 goes live, delves fully open up. You can now do all tiers of delves up to tier 13, but the gear cap stops at tier 8. So you only need to run tier level 8 to get max gear out of delves. 603 item level gear will drop from tier 8 delves. If you complete a tier 8 delve, you will unlock a vault slot as well, which will reward you with a 616 item level gear in your vault on the next reset. You will want to run 12 delves at tier level 8 to max out your delve vault slots. From looking over everything, it seems delves will be rewarding the highest grade vault reward for this week. This is the week of September 10th to September 16th. So it will be important to get delves done, ideally at tier level 8. The weekly vault breakpoint for delves goes as the following. Completing 3 delves unlocks the first vault slot. Completing 6 delves unlocks the second vault slot. And completing 12 delves unlocks the third vault slot. Delves are a bit challenging as you get higher into the tiers, especially if you're under geared, so it will be important to make sure you keep up with your gear going into Season 1 so you don't fall behind. When our first Season 1 reset happens, September 17th, this is when everything opens in full swing for the most part except for the last 2 wings of LFR. Wing 1 and Wing 2 of LFR will be open though. Mythic Nurabar Palace is now opened and the race to World First will begin. Mythic Plus dungeons are now opened and the race to push IO and max your item level out begins as well. During this week, some of your main goals will be to push Mythic Plus and try to push the highest key you can manage. In Mythic Plus, the gear rewards scale up to level 10, which will drop end of dungeon loot at 613 item level and 623 in your Great Vault. So ideally you want to run Mythic Plus 10s during the second week of Season 2, which is the first week of Mythic Plus. I know for a lot of people this isn't realistic, and trust me, there are lots of people who won't be running plus 10s the first week Mythic Plus opens. The best tip I have for you is just push as high as you can go. Even if you're running plus 5s or plus 6s, then that's really good. The higher the better obviously, but you just want to do what you can manage without stressing yourself out. If you're a more casual player, then just focus on running heroic dungeons, pushing high level delves, and maybe Mythic 0 dungeons. Then work your way up to Mythic plus 2s and 3s as the season goes on. This will get you pretty decent gear. Tier 8 delves can drop gear equal to heroic raid gear, so this would be a great source for getting gear throughout the season. If you're a solo type player, then this expansion is going to be a good one for you. In the second week of Season 2, if you don't have any tier gear or are still missing some gear slots, you can run both wings of LFR to push your luck and hope for some drops. Overall guys, just play the way you like and don't stress. Everyone has a different play style and likes to enjoy the game at their pace. And something else I wanted to mention, I wanted to talk about one of my next videos. I'm currently working on a video that's going to be a deep dive into professions, and a step-by-step guide to walk you through every step of the way. Literally telling you exactly what to craft, what you will need, and what to spend your knowledge points on. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. But that's it for this video guys, thanks for watching, Cloudy Haze out, see you in the next one, have fun gearing up.
You can call my name, I'll be around. Dum dum da da, dum dum da da, dum dum. The sky is falling. Dum dum da da, dum dum da da, dum da da. That will keep you safe and sound. Dum da da, dum dum da da, dum da da, dum da da, dum dum. The sky is falling. Dum dum.